we have right now a public that feels, according to the polling I've seen, overburdened with military expenses, with military adventures, concerned about the morality of issues like drone warfare. You've been very outspoken writing and speaking on drone warfare. I myself have interviewed human rights activists in Pakistan and Africa and elsewhere in the world. Um, Here's one where I've got to say I'm disturbed and upset by the uniformity of opinion you find in some Republican military circles and some Democratic thought leaders, including some of the young guys on MSNBC. One of them said, well, if you want to declare war on America, you get what you get. Speaking of the deaths at a wedding, which included a 7-year-old girl, so I'm not sure she was declaring war on America. Um, and I guess where I'm going with this is from a different angle. How do we get morality and public opinion into something like the drone debate, the NSA debate, that sort of thing? What's the shell we're trying to penetrate there, and how do we get through it?
Well, just to inform the readers of the background of what you're talking about, we have for years now conducted drone attacks in areas where there's no declared war. And obviously, some of the information I know is classified. I'm not going to tell you any of that. But there's massive public reports about U.S. drone attacks in Pakistan and in Yemen. And in both countries, the claim is made that these drones, these unmanned aerial vehicles, these unmanned airplanes that drop bombs, are attacking people who are known terrorists. And doing so makes it safer than, let's say, putting U.S. pilots at risk of being shot down. Although, generally speaking, these people don't even have running water, so it's hard to see how they could shoot down an F-18. But in any event, the problem with these attacks consistently has been a massive number of innocent casualties. In fact, there are public records now of 200-plus children dying in these attacks. And the cases have been well documented. Robert Greenwald, the film director, recently released a film that documented and interviewed some of the family victims of these attacks, including the wedding that you're describing, which, by the way, has never been explained by our government. The government never explained why it attacked a wedding party. Or, for that matter, a 63-year-old grandmother who was tending her garden about a year ago and was killed in front of two of her grandchildren by a drone attack, literally blown to pieces. So, obviously, in many cases, these attacks are going awry. The government has strangely reclassified the term insurgent to now include any adult in the area, including men and women both. So now men and women in a particular area are all called insurgents and therefore somehow legitimate targets. The estimates are typically that at least 20% of the people who actually get killed in these attacks are totally innocent, and possibly more than that. And for what? I mean, seriously, are these villagers actually somehow going to, I don't know, take over the White House? What is it that these people who live in filth and poverty in rural areas in Yemen and in Pakistan, what is it that they are going to do to harm us? What is within their capability to do to harm us? That these are people who have difficulty, finding clean water and have no sewage, barely survive mouth-to-mouth living. These are people who think that modern technology is a cigarette lighter,
Right.
and somehow they represent somehow a threat to the United States. So that's what the war is all about. Now, as you point out, both Democrats and Republicans vehemently defend the drone attacks because they say that they keep U.S. pilots from being at risk. The much more fundamental question is, does it make us any safer? And the answer simply is no. Not only do they not actually remove any actual threats to the United States or to U.S. citizens, but they massively inflame the entire local population. There are public opinion polls in Pakistan. Just since these drone attacks began a few years ago, We have gone from the most liked foreign country in Pakistan to the least liked foreign country in Pakistan. We actually rate lower now than Iran and Afghanistan in the minds of Pakistanis. We've gone from the most liked to the least liked. And that's bound to have effects on our ability to actually to take efforts to preserve our national security and to protect ourselves. If we can't get the cooperation of the Pakistani people, we're not going to be able to get the cooperation of the Pakistani government or the Pakistani army. And that actually will have an effect on our ability over time to maintain our safety and to maintain our security interests in the region. So we are alienating millions for the benefit of killing dozens.
But what are we up against? I mean, this is common sense. And by the way, I don't have any classified information, but the Pakistanis seem to know when they get killed. So that's another way to find out, or the Yemenis. What are we up against here that we can't get? First of all, the common sense national security argument. An entire people, you create more enemies than you kill. But secondly, that look, even on a financial level, these drones aren't cheap. It's an expensive war that's counterproductive. Why? What is it? Is it the classic military-industrial complex? Is it the defense lobby and all of that we can't get at least Democratic Party spokespeople speaking up against this? That it has to be you and then Rand Paul? I mean, what are we fighting here?
The boys love their toys.
Okay.
We spend $50 billion a year on spying on ourselves through the NSA, which you alluded to earlier. We spend massive amounts of money trying to develop drone warfare so that people can kill on the basis of what they see on a computer screen rather than killing by looking out the window. And somehow that's considered to be a marvelous technological advance. The fact is that death is death, no matter how it's accomplished. And none of this makes us any safer. A former ambassador in the area, former U.S. ambassador in the Middle East, said recently that for every one that we kill, we create 50 new enemies. That sounds about right to me.
But in the meantime, they get their toys and they get to sit around in the Situation Room in the White House and pick their kill list for this week, I guess. So I tell you, to me, it sounds like a hell of a trade-off, a Faustian bargain at best. But anyway, Representative Alan Grayson, there's so much more I could ask you, but we've taken up a lot of your time. I hope you'll come back sometime. But thanks so much for coming and speaking with us on the Zero Hour.
Good. Thanks a lot for keeping your audience well informed. As you point out, these days it's very, very hard for people to hear the truth. It's just hard to hear. It's hard to get.
Yeah.
And you've done an excellent job of informing people about what's really going on. So God bless you for that.
Well, thank you, and same to you.
Thank you, too.